Hello and welcome to The Drummer Speaks. I'm your host, Alvin Atkinson. Today our special guest is Mr. LUCA Santaniello, drummer, composer, and educator. He began studying the drums at the age of 8 in his hometown of Campobasso, Italy. Today he resides in New York City, having attended the Juilliard School's Artist Diploma program, and has performed internationally with some of the great jazz musicians, such as Joe Lovano, Ron Carter, Roy Hargrove, and a host of others. LUCA, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, brother Alvin.
So you started at 8 years old. How was that experience in Italy? Like, what prompted you to start playing the drums at 8 years old?
I don't know, something clicked. The event was that one time my mother, I was 6, brought me to some kind of private event. It must have been a communion or some kind of restaurant celebration of that sort. And there was a band playing, you know, like a wedding band of some sort. And I was 6. And it's just, you know, it started as a game with the other kids to go and sit next to the drums and be curious about the music. And so I remember that by the end of the night, all the kids went on to something else. And I stayed next to the drums all night. And since then, it just clicked, and I wanted to play the drums. And I just really bothered my mother until the age, actually I had to wait until the age of 12 to have my first drum set. Wow. So for 6 years, which is, you know, at that age is almost like your whole entire life,
yeah,
begging for drums.
You're thinking about it every day.
Yeah. And so eventually I got some drums at the age of 12, and I was able to practice, and I, you know, was practicing intensely, and from then on I never knew anything else. Yeah.
Waiting, you got your instrument.
Big time.
And
yeah.
So you studied classical percussion.
Yeah, so what happened is that I first got a private teacher that got me started on the snare drum. But I was practicing on a pad and stuff. And then eventually, as my parents saw that I was serious about it, they say, you know, maybe we better start this kid on a serious school so that one day he'll have a degree, and then we'll be able to decide what he wants to do, but at least he's gonna start a degree. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, conservatory in Italy, when I was young, at that age, you know, it required you to do like a full 9-year course, because it was, you know, like they used to do it long time ago. Mm-hmm. And so I had to start at the age of 12. So my mother said, you got to go to the conservatory if you want us to consider this important for you, if you want us to prove that you know that you want to do it for real. So I said okay, and I had to go to the conservatory. I did my test admission, and I got in, and I find out that there's no drums.
Oh my goodness!
And I was like, okay, well. And everybody's telling me I gotta do it because conservatory is something really prestigious in Italy. Not everybody gets in, and one day you get to sit in an orchestra and be a maestro in an orchestra. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. So I did it, and as I got into it, I got really, you know, at the beginning it was hard for me. I didn't really want to go. I wanted just to focus on drums. But then eventually I understood that there was something important for me, and that's where I got my reading skills, my you know sense of discipline in terms of, you know, being in an orchestra or chamber music or like classical percussion groups. And eventually I got into the marimba vibes, and that where it was my focus, because I was never much of a timpanist. Mm-hmm. You know, that, you know, as you know, that's kind of a different world from the percussions. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So I was more of a marimba guy, because of course I was playing jazz at the same time and studying drums, and so I saw that with the marimba and vibraphone I could study harmony, I could play, I could improvise. So I got into that really heavy, but then eventually I had to decide what to do, right? So I did my whole diploma, the conservatory, I got my degree, and then at one point it came the time when I had to decide, what do you want to be, a vibraphone player, a drummer, percussionist, a classical, what do you want to be? Because, I mean, I don't really think personally that I could do everything, you know.
But you had a lot of good experience, a good chance to really sort out a lot of those questions because you played in a lot of the orchestras and so forth when you were coming up. So that gave you a chance to kind of see what you really wanted to do.
Yeah, but yeah, I get your point. But at the same time, you know, when you love a woman, man,
Yeah.
you really have to go through all of the other scenarios. That you love that woman, not really. I mean, you know.
You know,
So
when you know, you know.
when you know, you know. So you know, when you're 12, it's hard to be accepted by society as somebody that knows what he wants to do. You
Right.
always have to do
Everybody
whatever.
always tell you you're too young.
You're too young.
Even now at the age we are now, you
You're
know,
too
someone
young.
60-year-old comes up to us and says, "Oh, you're just a kid." You
Big
know.
time. So I had to go through that, and again, you know, it was good, but at the same time, I wish there was a school that got me started on the drums and jazz earlier, like focus on that, because then I had to really do that when I came here.
Yeah.
Seriously, like when I could really get into the jazz, the language, hanging out with the cats, playing the gigs, looking for the tradition, the swing, the groove, all the stuff that you don't really get to experience in a classical environment because
Right.
there's not much about groove there. You know, it's more about other stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so.
So you made that transition to New York. How was that adjusting? How did it? How long did it take you to get acclimated to being in New York? I mean, although your heart and soul was already kind of in New York years before, because you knew this is the place you wanted to be to acquire the things that you wanted to get out of music. How was that transition from Italy to New York?
Okay, you know, I first came for a month. At that time, I had a girlfriend that said, like, you know, come over, check it out. And so I came for a month. I checked it out. So of course, you know, I understood pretty quick that the girlfriend was gone. But I found
That
the
was like
city.
the timpani in your life. huh?
Yes. And then I found the city, and I say I gotta be back. So after 6 months, I was back, and to tell you the truth, I had no problem in connecting with people in terms of cultural clash. No, it was pretty cool, even because New York is really a place where there's everything you want to find, everything you want, like in terms of culture, people, race, language, religion, anything. So it's all mixed up. So I understood that I could always look for what I wanted, for what made me more comfortable, right? But then eventually to get more established and to be known as being one of the many jazz drummers that there was around, it took me like about 9 months to a year to start to be able to pay my first rent with the gigs, bills, buy food, and cover all of the expenses just by playing.
Yeah.
And then I remember that was, you know, I came in August 2001. In March, I was like, wow, I paid everything this month, and you know, it's like,
a good feeling.
Wow, it's a good feeling, and I didn't have to go do anything else, you know. So,
Some people, they come here and they immediately start at Juilliard.
right.
You actually got here and you spent years as a professional musician. You were
Yeah.
touring, and then you decided to go to Juilliard. How was that experience?
Well, thanks for this observation. You know, I think that it was extremely vital for me to spend those years as a professional to eventually gain the experience and the security and the knowledge to then go to Juilliard and be like, audition and be like, I want to be part of this, but I want to be part of the best program you got. I want to represent the school. I want to be able to tour, because the artist diploma program is kind of, you know, they consider it the top level program. It's a postmaster degree, and they use this band because it's a band of 5 or 6 elements that changes every 2 years cyclically, to represent the school and send them on tours and do educational outreach programs also in, like, you know, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia. So they kind of want, like, experienced musicians, these musicians that can, you know, represent well.
Right.
But at the same time, for me, it was a great opportunity to eventually get to that kind of scene that you don't get at the clubs anymore as you used to be in New York. Like, I mean, I was not there when it happened, like in the 70s, 80s, but you always hear from older cats. You know, you could meet the legends connect, talk,
Right.
you know, and eventually play with them. So, well, at Juilliard, I got a chance to study with K-Wash,
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Washington. Sorry,
Mhm.
I call him
That's
K-Wash,
fine.
but Kenny Washington, Carl Allen, Billy Drummond, which are three drummers, very different from each other, but they all got great things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a chance to meet and play and be coached by Ron Carter, Kenny Barron, Ray Drummond, Benny Golson, Paul Motion, you know, Jimmy Cobb. They all
Mhm.
came there and they hang out and they shared their knowledge and on a regular basis. I was hanging out with Kenny Barron in class on a regular basis every week.
Mm-hmm.
And so when there's nowhere else now in New York where that happens. And it happened there. So for me, it was a good opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's great how you took advantage of that. You know, many students sometimes when they're in college, they don't realize that, you know, being in college doesn't exempt you from still practicing on being a master at the instrument.
Yeah.
Sometimes they use that to say, okay, I'm not playing now, I'm just in school. But that's how you get so many gigs with many people, because when you have people like Kenny Barron and Roy Hargrove and Carl Allen hearing you every week, they can easily refer you for gigs because they
Yes.
know who you are.
Yes.
You know, and being in situations like that, I can tell it just spawned your career to a whole nother level, because I saw you play with Roy Hargrove, Joe Lovano, and with your own group, you know, your quartet.
Yeah,
I like that group. In fact, that brings us to a point that I want to show the audience a video of you with your quartet. I think it's Joe Sanders on bass.
yeah.
And
There's John
Ellis.
and Lucas Pino, which is another great guy that's coming out of Juilliard, you know.
So y'all are playing, what is this song you play? I think
Bahia.
Bahia, by Thelonious Monk.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at that. This is LUCA Santaniello's quartet at Dizzy's Jazz Club. So that was a amazing video. I mean,
Thank
you know,
you.
you're soloing. I mean, seeing you as a band leader, you know, taking charge from behind the drums. I always like to say the conductor has one baton, but the drummer has two. And as a drummer, we're the internal conductors.
Yeah.
And I
big
really like seeing you as a leader, you know, because it wasn't about just drum solo. I mean, I could really tell that the band was conforming to your sound, and you allowed everybody freedom. How is it playing with that particular group, that configuration you had?
I've always wanted to try a cordless quartet, a cordless ensemble. And the reason why I chose these cats is because they really know what to do. You don't have to tell them much. I'm not the kind of leader that talks too much about telling you what to do. I kind of let the music speak for itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a drummer as well that likes too much drum solos and drum time. You know, for example, I compose is not my main activity, like to compose, but when I do, I really like to write ballads.
Mm-hmm.
that's my thing. And I could write a lot of tricky tunes with change meters and stuff. But no, I like to write ballads because I really like being a leader, being a composer, to explore whatever I don't do all the time, which is harmony, melody, orchestration, rather than crazy rhythmic stuff.
Yeah.
So these guys, I've always loved Joe Sanders' beat and creativity and capacity of interact right away and orchestrate all the time and be always new and fresh. John Ellis is a great capacity, like freedom. It's a great improviser, and he also plays bass clarinet. The same thing with Lucas Pino, great tenor player and bass clarinet. So I wanted actually explore also the blend of bass clarinet and tenor.
Yeah, that was a very interesting sound.
And
really like
that's
that.
why I got two cats that can play both, so they would switch, right? And so I wanted to try that, and I had a lot of fun.
Though on this particular concert, they actually did one of your ballads.
Yes.
It's a beautiful ballad. And there was another point I saw, there's another video that we want to show of you with the trio. It's called Trio Stuff.
That video is actually, I think we're talking about the video where we play an arrangement of Cute by, Neil Lefty.
Really nice. It was you did some trading fours and trading eights, and I really like the way you play as a group. You know, you and Joe, you really lock. You know, that beat. That's so important. Drummers and basses, we're like, Cheech and Chong, Humes and Berg, Ollie and Lolly,
Big time.
We get each other gigs all the time. You ask the bass player, the first thing you ask him is, who do you want on drums? The same thing with the drummer.
Yeah. I've had the opportunity to connect with a few bass players. Like, when you really connect with some cats that you play with all the time. I don't know how it is for you, but I'm sure that on the list of bass players you play with, you have like top 5 or top 10 or whatever that is.
Absolutely.
And it's so important also to practice together. I had the opportunity to get together with my man Clovis Nicholas, and we get together and we practice time, or with Joseph Lepore, I'm sure you play with all of these guys.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, you see, for example, where I come from in Italy, there's not really a lot of people to do that with, because there's not this mentality of getting together, doing sessions, practicing together, working on specific stuff, Instead, here it was possible.
So do you find when you go home, do you take that concept with you? Have you gotten some Italian cats to get together? Like when you go to visit and they come to see you play and they want to jam out, are you starting to share that concept with them? Is that harder to do? Or?
Well, you know what? I think it's just a natural process. Just I'm really glad that there's more young musicians in Italy that realize that they have to go through the tradition to really get down to business. Right. And all over Europe, I think, and that's actually also, a lot of cats in New York told me that. I think Italy has the highest concentration of jazz musicians that want to swing, right? if you look like all over Europe, every country is influenced by a specific tradition that most of the time is not like jazz tradition, but is more classical tradition. So they try to bring that into jazz. Italy is, I think, is a high concentration of swinging cats. So the thing is changing, and I see a lot more and more young musicians that can really swing. But going back to where you were saying, I think that the great thing about New York and living this kind of jazz experience is that when you go back and you go and play, you don't really need to do much. You just need to play, and that thing comes out. And cats feel it.
Yeah.
And once you see that they feel it, then it opens up all the doors.
Then they want to get together a little more. That's
right,
good.
right.
That's
So
good.
that's what I found out. That's
Yeah.
what I felt. I don't really get a chance to spend there much time to go and practice with the cats in Italy. But yes, when I go and play and I do concerts, festivals and stuff, you know, it's great that people come to me and wanna, you know, and wanna talk about that thing that is the swing, the groove, like, you know, the tempo, and how you cup with the bass player, and well, you know, the records, you really play some swinging music. They don't come and say, oh, why you didn't play some original 7/8 or 13, 14 shit.
Yeah.
You know,
I know what you're saying. So you know what? It sounds like the music has taken you so many different directions.
yeah.
You know, I even noticed you had your movie debut.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw the movie with The Girl in the Park with
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, that's some heavyweight territory
Some
there,
heavyweight.
man. How was that experience?
That was one of those things in New York, like a last-minute call that I get from Caroline Leonard, which is the singer, great singer, and she's like, "Do you want to do this this extra? You know, they're looking for a band. They call me, and I got to put a band together. It's going to be you, Joe Martin, and Matt Ray, and me. So we just have to go down there, and gonna." Most likely have to do a lot of waiting around, because you know how it is, movie sets, you wait around forever, and then when it's time to hit, everybody's got to be ready. So we shot this scene, a 2-minute scene where we are on a stage and we play one of Caroline's ballads. And it was good. You know, I got to meet Sigourney Weaver. We said hello. You know, we talked a little bit, and I got to see that side of the business, which is a different thing.
So, Luca, do you have any concerts or any events or projects that you're working on now that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, there is. I'm now working on a project which is, you know, I'm developing this project where I want to mix music of folk Neapolitan music from the side of Italy with jazz.
That's wonderful.
And I have a concert coming up at the Italian Cultural Institute on August 14th.
Okay.
And that's going to have Steve Wilson on alto saxophone, Joe Sanders on bass, and Theo Hill on piano.
All right.
And I'm going to work on these arrangements in different styles of jazz. And then I'm working on I'm working as a sideman on different projects. I've been playing constantly with Carlos Abadi Quintet. And we're about to head off to South America for some tours, for some gigs, and we have, you know, steady gig at malls every other week. And also, there is the first release on Max Jazz with this trio with an Italian tenor player, Emanuele Cisi, and with Joseph Lepore on bass. And there's going to be in October, there's going to be a tour, a US tour, to promote the record for Max Jazz.
Great.
So those are a few of the things that I'm doing besides all of the other sideman stuff that I,
wonderful.
you know, do all the time. But
So, man, I want to just commend you for just, you know, the level you have come from the time I met you, man. I mean, you've constantly been just growing and just taking advantage of the whole situation. I mean, you're always the cat that I see that is observing everything going on, you know, and you're willing to get into any situation. If there's a jam going on, you just get on in there and do it.
thank you,
And
Alvin.
I think that's a beautiful thing, man. It
Thank
says
you
a
so
lot about
much.
who you are as a person. You're a constant giver and sharer of the music. Do you have any encouraging words you want to say to any young drummers or aspiring drummers or musicians in our audience?
Never lose touch with that pure sentiment, pure feeling that we all had when we wanted to start playing. Because I remember, I mean, I say that because I sometimes get so much into all the surroundings of the music, all of the things you have to deal with living in New York City and being a professional, that sometimes you kind of lose touch with that joy, pure joy.
Yeah.
Like as a child, where every time you sit at the drums, you're happy. Every time you get to play, you're happy. And when I see masters like Wayne Shorter, I remember when I was playing at the festival, at the Heritage Festival in New Orleans, I got to hang out and see, because I was there for 3 days, playing Brian Blade, right? With different situation, his own band, The Fellowship, and then in a jam session at somebody's house, and then on the stage with Wayne Shorter. And when I saw that band, Wayne Shorter's band, that reminded me why I started playing. Because I saw these cats getting on the stage, I saw Brian Blade and Wayne Shorter, which, you know, they belong to two different generations, being so happy and joyful about playing.
Right.
And the music was so pure, and like, you know, they didn't have to prove anything. You didn't have to really exactly recognize a style or vocabulary, or, well, it didn't come to me that they were not swinging at all.
Right.
Right, because they were just grooving.
Yeah.
They were really grooving and flowing with the energy of the universe. You know what I mean?
Right. That's beautiful.
So it was not like, oh, but well, they didn't do a swinger, or well, it didn't really matter. It was just pure joy.
That's
you know,
right.
and so that's what I tell young drummers: just don't lose that.
Don't lose that. Stay in touch with that.
Yeah, all the time.
Thanks for those kind words, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best and continued success in your career. Today, our guest has been Mr. LUCA Santaniello. I'm your host, Alvin Atkinson. You've been watching The Drummer Speaks. We'll catch you on the next Downbeat.